Good morning, Facebook. Tim Anderson, January 3rd, 2020. So a lot of you have been asking, how did the Democrats take over in 2019? Well, certainly one of the big problems for that was a lot of people didn't vote. Only about 40% of the state voted in Virginia in 2019. The other major problem is there was a lot of uncontested races where mostly Democrats were able to run unopposed, which guaranteed them a win. However, there's a much bigger nefarious thing that happened that many of you probably don't know about, and I'd like to share the true background here of what happened. And this started in 2014. Basically, what happened in 2014 is a lawsuit was filed that accused Virginia of racially gerrymandering certain districts in Virginia. So basically, there were districts, mostly in Hampton Roads, that were zoned and written in such a way that was alleged to have discriminated against African Americans. And so this case had been brewing through 2014, and it went up in 2017, and then it went back down. And essentially what happened last year is that federal judges in Richmond ordered districts to be redrawn. I think it was about 11. If I'm not 100% on that, but it's like 10 or 11 districts that were ordered to be redrawn, mostly in Hampton Roads. And the judges picked a special master who was a University of California, Berkeley professor. And so this special master drew these maps, and the maps came back, and they turned what would be almost heavily favored red Democrat or red Republican zones into left-leaning Democrat zones. Zones that had historically always gone red are going would possibly be going blue. And so that's what happened. Now, a lot of people didn't vote because historically their districts have always been Republican. And so it kept a lot of Republican voters home because they generally, all with their districts always go red, and they didn't vote. Now, shame on them for doing that, but that's what happened. Now, this case is the Virginia House of Delegates versus Bethune-Hill. Now, what happened, and this is where the crazy part of the story happened. So after this district was drawn in last year, the courts went up, well, not last year, but after it was being litigated, the House of Delegates, Republican House of Delegates, challenged it, and they brought it all the way to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court basically ruled that the House of Delegates, the Republican House of Delegates, did not have standing to be able to challenge this law, and that the only person that could challenge it would be the state's Attorney General, which is Mark Herring. What Mark Herring did in that case is he took no position. He didn't come out and support the laws, and he didn't come out to oppose the laws. And so by not taking a position and not representing the state in an extremely important issue dealing with how we vote and how our districts are written up and designed, he correctly, he's a very smart guy, okay? He correctly read that the House of Delegates would not have standing. And that's exactly what the Supreme Court did. So by Mark Herring not representing the state in an extremely important issue dealing with voters' rights, the state was not a party to the action, and then the Supreme Court dismissed the appeal, not on whether what happened was right or wrong, simply on standing. And so yet again, we have an Attorney General who is not doing his job. I would have been totally fine with Mark Herring taking a position supporting the new maps or taking a position defending the way that the maps were drawn, or even defending the way the maps were before. Whatever he wanted to take is fine, but doing nothing required the House of Delegates to file a lawsuit and make extremely valid legal arguments that were not heard because they didn't have standing to make them. The puppet master in the room was Mark Herring. And the reason that the Virginia Democrats won is because of Mark Herring. Now, more people voted for the Republicans in Virginia than they did the Democrats statewide, but it doesn't matter because it's by zones. And so what they did is they clustered and rewrote certain zones, mostly in Hampton Roads, and the seats here flipped to the Democrats. And seats that have historically always been Republican by huge margins flipped to the Democrats. Now, whether the gerrymandering was right or wrong, that's another issue. But the point is that we did not get the Supreme Court of Virginia, or the Supreme Court of the United States, to clearly make some definitions that would affect the whole country upon what would happen simply because Mark Herring is playing politics with his office by not representing the state. And it's not like he didn't know about this. This has been going on since he's been Attorney General in 2014. He just sat back and did not take a position, which invalidated the standing issue. So, when I've said previously, you can dislike Northam. Northam is a politician. Whether you like him or don't is going to depend upon what you vote for. But Mark Herring has a record of playing politics at the Attorney General office. And when history looks back at all of this, he is the puppet master behind the stage of all of this. He doesn't. He says it's okay for the Commonwealth attorneys to not enforce marijuana laws, but they better enforce gun laws. He says that Virginia's gay marriage ban was unconstitutional. He wasn't going to enforce it. That wasn't his job. Now, I don't disagree with him personally, but it wasn't his job as the Attorney General to say it when he said that. He picks sides politically, and then he uses his office to advance the Democrat agenda. And that's not what's supposed to happen in the Attorney General's office. That can happen in the governor's office. That can happen in other ones, but it shouldn't happen in the Attorney General's office. All right, so how are they going to fix this? Well, first off, I don't think any of us ever want to see a California Berkeley professor tell Virginia how it's supposed to vote. That's a big problem. And we do seem to have some bipartisan support about creating a districting commission, and it would compose of like 16 people. 5 would be retired judges. There would be 4 people from the Senate, 4 people from the House, and then a few other people that they would pick. And it would all be this commission of how they're going to draw maps in the future. It has bipartisan support. House Joint Resolution 34 is written by a Republican, Mr. Cole. Senate Bill 203, which is Louise Lucas from Portsmouth, and Senate Bill 236, which wants to put Barker, he's a Democrat, want to put that as a referendum on the 2020 ballot. Point is this. This is complicated stuff, but the point is this, is that voting is a big issue this year, and we need to be telling the representatives that most important is we find out a way to keep it within our state and not having the courts decide and a University of California Berkeley professor decide how the lines are supposed to be drawn in Virginia. So that would be if you're going to email them, that's what I would tell them, is to find something. I don't know if HJ 34 and SB 203 are going to actually do that, but at least it's bipartisan, and there's people on both sides that think that we have a big problem and they don't want to see that happen again. So that's what's going on. That's what happened. I hope that brings some clarity. Have a great day, Facebook.